I want to thank Dan Shimkus and Dr. Ashley and all the members of the head table, all of you for inviting me to be with you this evening. I'm going to just, I think we have a chance for some conversation, right? So let me just frame what I'd like to talk about in 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can really engage, at least for a little while, because I have not yet packed, so I'm not going to stay too late. But let me just start with a story. Our youngest daughter, Catherine, graduated from high school this year, 18 years old. And when my wife and I were sitting there at her graduation, we couldn't help but contrast the difference between her path to that milestone and my own, to a similar milestone 35 years before. In my case, as many of you know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, most of that time on welfare. I shared a room and a set of bunk beds with my mother and my sister. So you go from the top bunk to the bottom bunk to the floor every third night on the floor. I remember loving books. I remember loving to read. But I can't actually remember ever owning a book. So when I got my break in 1970 to go to Milton Academy, that for me was like landing on a different planet. I remember all the boys used to complain about the accommodations because the freshmen in those days lived in what were called alcoves. So these were not quite rooms where the walls went not all the way up to the ceiling and you had a curtain for a door. And all the other boys are complaining about how primitive and Spartan it was, and I thought, this is luxury. I have my own bed night after night. I contrast that with Catherine, who has always had her own bedroom. She grew up in a house in the leafy neighborhood in Milton where I used to deliver newspapers when I was a student at Milton Academy. By the time she got to high school, she had already traveled on 3 continents. She knew how to use and pronounce a concierge. And she had shaken hands with the President of the United States in the White House. When Catherine was 5 years old, her class was studying in kindergarten the changes in the seasons. And so she was sent home with the homework assignment of describing the 4 seasons to Mom and Dad. And so she said, Mom, I'm ready, and proceeded to describe in detail her several visits to the Four Seasons Hotel in Washington, D.C. She said, first you drive up and the doorman takes your car. She went on from there. One generation. One generation. And the circumstances of our family were transformed. And that story isn't told often enough, perhaps, in this country, but it's told more often in this country than any other place on earth. And in my case, and I'll bet in a whole bunch of yours too, it was about great teachers and classrooms. It was about opportunity to work and show my skills and gain others, and it was about adults who paid attention. That's our agenda.